There is a human rights crisis that's unfolding in Myanmar or Burma, and it targets a Muslim population called the Rohingya. And I'm going to quote now from a piece in The Nation just briefly. In southeastern Bangladesh, already crowded refugee camps are swelling each day with arrivals from Myanmar. Upward of 400,000 stateless Muslim Rohingya have crossed the border in the past 3 weeks, fleeing a brutal military campaign launched in response to attacks by Rohingya insurgents on August 25th. The Myanmar government has stated that 176 Rohingya villages have been emptied of their inhabitants, and satellite images show that more than 80 have been burned to the ground. Eyewitnesses describe indiscriminate killings of civilians. But the international alarm doesn't end at the bloody accounts emerging from Western Myanmar. Instead, it was extended into the country's center, where the government of Nobel Peace Prize winner Aung San Suu Kyi sits. So this is why it's disturbed so many people in so many ways. About 4 years ago, Burma, which had been ruled by one of the most brutal autocratic military governments in the globe, had presided over a thorough and unending dictatorship and police state, and had kept Aung San Suu Kyi, who was the leader of a nonviolent resistance, Buddhist-anchored democracy movement. They put her in house arrest. They repressed her, but she also had international profile as a Nobel Peace Prize winner, as really, frankly, a striking and elegant and effective advocate for democracy, and the daughter of a former Burmese leader herself. She is now, as part of the process of sort of partial democratization, at the head of a Burmese government, but still in a delicate balance with the military. So the military still has extraordinary power. So and people have been very disturbed at her unwillingness to condemn vigorously and honestly the absolutely horrific abuses conducted against the Rohingya by the military, and also a resurgent far-right xenophobic Buddhist nationalist movement in Burma. Now, I just want to weigh a couple of things that are relevant in this conversation. One, the reality is that when saints become politicians, they do not remain saints. And Aung San Suu Kyi, what she has done with regards to the Rohingya is totally unjustifiable, and she deserves every type of criticism imaginable. But the reality is that I want to educate people to both, reach for the necessary moral arc, and the reality is that the Rohingya is one of the prime human rights abuses crises in the world today. But Aung San Suu Kyi sits at a very delicate balance. That's the political realist defense of her. She could be deposed again at any moment. The military still holds the strings. Number two, though, here is a criticism of Aung San Suu Kyi, and when we get swept up in heroes like this, and she is a heroic figure who's destroying her legacy right now, in fact, with this approach. Her movement never focused on the plight of groups like the Rohingya, which have always been sort of oppressed in the Burmese system. She was fighting for as I say, a Buddhist anchored, and Burma is a majority Buddhist country, opening of democracy, which undoubtedly would be an improvement of lives for most Burmese, but it was not a pluralistic, broad-based movement. It was never part of her rhetoric. And we need to, again, understand the local politics and the context of even people whom we might support greatly, and understand, obviously, their physical courage. Number three, look, I practice Buddhist meditation. I have a strong affinity for that world in some respects. I know a lot of people who spent a great deal of time in Burma and even been involved in that struggle on a solidarity level. Can this expression of xenophobia and nationalism in a Buddhist garb, and in fact mass indiscriminate killing, that in this case does target Muslims, can this once and for all shift the conversation from essentialized and stupid discussions about religions and quote-unquote bad ideas, and the reality that Buddhism, which I will be the first to admit, has a much more kind of herbivorous set of holy books than the Quran or the Bible or the Torah, can still also be used to leverage xenophobia, violence, and mass killing. We need to look at the underlying factors. So especially in a time when there is a vicious and sustained attack on a Muslim population in Burma, it's time for us to not go and demonize Buddhists, obviously not, but to escape that whole stupid reductionist conversation about religion and look at the underlying driving forces that can weaponize any ideology, any religion, and any politics at any time.